Hello everybody and welcome to Offworld Kings. I am your host, Volatility, and joining me today to help with casting is Zoltar. Thank you, Zoltar.
Hello, I'm here too.
Then in the background, but no less important than anybody else, is Polina. Polina is going to be producing the show, making sure everyone shows up on time, and so on and so forth to keep a downtime between games at a minimum.
Yeah, doing all that stuff that I can't be bothered to do, and Philothenic would rather not while he's hosting. So it's always good to have Polina around.
Yes, so if you missed Offworld Kings last time, it ended with Blues with a 2-match streak, and so Blues is back to defend that streak. And the first challenger that we've had, we do have a bunch of people lined up, and they have been randomized with an account to time constraints, and that first challenger, once I can, there we go, is Evil Diablo.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm excited. I'm interested. I mean, first game of the day, you never know what's going to happen. Players are warmed up, or if they're going to be in it right away. There's always a chance that Blues could fall here, but let's be honest, I think he's going to be a favorite.
Blues is definitely the favorite in between this matchup, but if you remember from the last Offworld Kings, Evil Diablo did knock out Gameslayer right after Gameslayer had one of the best elite games on Ceres I have ever seen in a 1v1, so anything can happen in Offworld Kings.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I'd be interested to see if somebody goes for a little bit more elite play today. I find it unlikely, but I suppose, as you say, anything's possible.
Yep. Anything is possible in Offworld Kings. It is an unfair format, but lots of fun. And we're launching the game as we speak right now. And our first match is on Ceres.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I immediately noticed that there's not a lot of uranium going on. I don't know how more relevant that's going to be.
Oh man, I thought I hit the defaults. All HQs shouldn't be available.
Well, anything can happen in Offworld Kings for Philothenic, so it's all right. And there's no silicon anyway, so some of these aren't going to be particularly viable options regardless. I don't know. The iron's kind of all in a corner down in the bottom right, except for I guess you got a little patch in the top right as well. I'm kind of wanting to see an expansive here, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, expansive seems like a good bet. The carbon's not really enough. It's screaming to go for a scavenger found. Expansives or robots is what we're probably going to see. It is a electronics colony, but electronics are starting at 100, so it could see that robotic play going on. But yeah, expansive does seem to be the order of the day. And
yeah, and I especially like it because we've got 2 habitats and then like a garage, and so that combined with the electronics, it really pushes me away from that robotic found. It can be a nice way to get off the block quickly as a steel user, but sometimes it's just not worth it. Blues, however, are going to throw caution to the wind and say, nukes, low carbon, I don't care, I'll just found scavenger anyway. So
yeah, well, Evil Diablo took that one expansive spot that you're pointing out, so yep. Blues is going to brave the nukes with these 3 low carbon. Now Blues is deciding, interestingly, to ship the carbon instead of founding a little bit closer. That way he can get his water in nice and quickly.
Yeah, shipping the carbon probably won't slow him down too much this early in the game. He also has a lot of aluminum bought up, so he will be able to get to that upgrade fairly quickly. And as you say, it leaves him close to the aluminum, close to the water. So long term, hopefully it'll work out well, but it makes me even more fearful about these nukes, this basic idea. He can't get those claims back. There's no way for him to return them this game. And so as that carbon gets nuked out, it's not even going to be a simple matter for him to rotate out of it if Evil Diablo is able to go that route this game.
Yeah, now Evil Diablo is starting an interesting start. 1 steel, 1 iron, 1 aluminum.
Yep.
I think it was all normal prices across the board, so for the basic resources, if I recall correctly, so I think I would have preferred to see him as 2 steel, 1 iron start, but he's not too far behind Blues in taking the upgrade to HQ too.
Yeah, and he did have the advantage that by taking that aluminum, at least, he was in a position where Blue's initial purchase into aluminum wasn't able to hurt him long term. Blues wasn't able to just stay in that aluminum and keep Evil Diablo from upgrading, so The 1-1-1 a little bit slow, but he does actually get there, which might have been in question if he avoided taking aluminum at the beginning of the game.
That's true. Now, one thing I'm not as big of a fan is taking this one lonely high water tile that's going to get no adjacency.
Yeah,
that's, first of all,
diminishing resources too.
Diminishing resources plus nukes. I would expect to see that be a trace sometime later in the game. When you have this nice patch of 2 ice tiles that don't diminish and can't be nuked right to the right of your base, and some ice not too far away to the left.
Yep, I think those would have been much better options long term. I think you're absolutely right about that. Once again, the presence of nukes, just even without nukes, I really don't like this decision because it's going to eventually, like, best case scenario is long term, that's going to be 1 water a second, which is just terrible anyway. And even there are no fancy tricks you can pull. There's nothing interesting you can do to ever make that tile actually good. So it is definitely an odd decision to me. That said, what it will do is allow him kind of a jump start early in the game. It didn't cost any resources to get it down. It is getting 2 glass per second, or excuse me, 2 water per second, and water's quite pricey. So maybe the early game boost will be enough to see him through.
Yeah. Also, Evil Diablo does have extra claims in blues, and blues is only with the scavenger. Now there's an extra claim auction that goes to blues for 32k, which doesn't
pricey
seem
on Ceres.
It is pricey, but not that pricey. Claims
Probably
are
worth it.
Yeah, claims are way more worth it on Ceres than say Mars or Aya. But I was gonna say blues doesn't have that much of a non-diminishing advantage just off of this medium aluminum, which is now frozen, and an electrolysis reactor. So maybe Evil Diablo using that 1 tile doesn't really matter since he's still got, 3 more claims up on blues.
That is true. That expansive advantage in claims is always a very nice thing indeed. Now, Blues is headed into some nuclear plants already. Certainly, I think a good move for him considering that 32k auction. He's going to need to find some way to get rid of that debt before interest piles up too high. On top of that, he had just been hit by black market from Evil Diablo, so it was going to be a minute before Evil Diablo could even think about shutting nuclear reactors down. I am curious.
Yeah.
All right, Evil Diablo going to make the same move.
Already making 700 a second on power, 550 actually going to pay off debt. So a nice move there. Evil Diablo does move into the nukes, but those are immediately circuit overloaded by Blues. Blues saying, no nuclear plants for you. And
wise decision out of Evil Diablo to move out of them. I do question. I believe Blues hit with that overload before the plants were actually done.
Right, so small mistake on Blues' part there.
Yeah, and I hesitate to completely call it a mistake because, yes, it guarantees that the hit comes, no Goon Squad is there now, and you can be sure you're going to hit before the Goon Squad could appear. But as you say, the problem is that those things cost a lot of steel, and it would have been nice to force your opponent to finish them, use up that steel, and then scrap out of it if he wanted to transition, rather than simply being able to cancel.
Right, and Evil Diablo with a good heads-up play, knowing that Blues doesn't have a goon, immediately EMPs Blues nuclear plant, so Blues paying down to 30k debt, which puts him slightly ahead by double Evil Diablo, who just went down into B debt. So this will give Evil Diablo a chance to maybe make some money, power money, or at least pay down some debt with nuclear plants in another location now that he's HQ4.
Yeah, I do want to make him. I do want to see him make a pretty serious commitment into power at this point because he's HQ4 to his Scavenger's HQ3. That's absolutely fantastic. Really feels like the only thing that can go wrong for him this game, if he plays it solidly from here, is this debt level. So as long as he's able to get rid of that, he should be in a pretty solid position. So I want to see a really heavy commitment to like 4 nuclear plants. Make sure black market can't take them all out, and you're gonna be cruising from there.
Right, because all Evil Diablo has to do is keep the debt in that B range, and he should be fine. He doesn't even have to pay off debt.
No.
But that a circuit overload coming as soon as the freeze ends means Blues will not be paying off any power debt from that location, so Blues is going to rotate into nuclear plants somewhere else, and maybe that will give Evil Diablo the idea to rotate into some nuclear plants elsewhere, maybe take out these electrolysis reactors, because Evil Diablo is in C debt on Ceres, and that is something to be concerned about with the more frequent interest ticks.
Yeah, those interest ticks will really get you. Oh, we're going for... Yep, there it is. As soon as Blues had the cash, EMP on top of those nuclear plants. It was quite literally the moment he had the cash. Blues has been scrambling for that money this entire time after the initial hit onto his electrolysis reactors. But looks like he's going to be pretty solid from here. Double A bond rating, paying off debt fairly swiftly, even with the circuit overload active, and Evil Diablo falling closer and closer to D. I'm very concerned as he did not secure enough nuclear plants to have consistent power production.
Yeah, now boosting out these steel mills. Fortunately, that doesn't increase the power usage of the steel mills, which is a little bit odd when you think about it, but I still would like to see these electrolysis reactors rotated into nuclear plants. You can see they're only making $50 a second per tile versus those nuclear plants, if they're online, would be paying off 500, now almost 600 a second per tile with the adjacency bonus. Now Evil Diablo's in D-debt.
D-debt and yet another circuit overload. Circuit overload's really the name of the game here. Pretty easy to fix this problem for Evil Diablo. He is finally going to make the transition to nuclear plants, but I do wonder, is it... Well, it is far too late to have been as good as it could have been. Is it too late to really knock him out of this one? Because he still has so many other advantages going his way.
If
he's
he
still
had
expansive.
Saved on to the boost, as Rahi mentions in chat, and used it for these nuclear plants that would now not be hit for another 60 seconds or so. Well, no, actually Blues' black market cooldown is up, so I take that back. But anyway, those nuclear plants boosted would have been really nice for paying off that debt. I mean, now back into C debt, once getting onto HQ5, but only a few interest ticks away from going back down into D.
Another EMP goes ahead and lands. Blues, it is interesting watching Blues, because Blues is not ready. Each time that this black market cooldown comes up, Blues knows he needs to use it. He knows there's an effective hit to find, but Blues is always in a position where he is having to sell down almost every scrap of resources he has in order to make this happen. And you can really feel that difficulty he's having in securing these water resources, in having the claims to be in these valuable markets. It's really causing him a pretty serious problem. And I think it all goes back to this idea that he's operating on 3 low carbon tiles, so his upgrades just aren't as swift as you need to be as a scavenger in order to keep pace with an expansive.
Right now, the one thing that Blues has got to love is this extra claim, because Evil Diablo cannot take it for 32k, so that's pretty much guaranteed that Blues will be able to take it, and it'll be interesting to see where Blues decides to use that extra claim, so we'll just have to keep our eyes on that.
Yeah, oh boy.
The black market is
kind of curious. Okay.
He hasn't decided just yet, still holding on to it.
He hasn't decided. There is another black market available for him. Okay, I think we're going to finally see another claim out of Blues. This is 2 claims. He can do kind of whatever he wants with this. Yeah, farms, no real surprise.
Yeah, needs to get into that life support. That those farm markets by themselves without adjacency, 109, now $110 per second. With adjacency, they'll get another plus 50%, so it'll be around 160-ish. I can do math on stream sometimes. Evil Diablo moving into a hacker array disguised as a nuclear plant, and they want to rethink what it's disguised as, because that single nuclear plant's going to look awfully suspicious. No spies, though.
No spies, but you can still figure out that there's something fishy going on there. Another EMP comes down. Evil Diablo did manage to pay off enough debt to at least pull off that, so Blues got maybe a couple thousand in his power money, but was not able to move forward from there.
No, Blues is going to need to figure out a way to upgrade to HQ5 just so he can keep up with Evil Diablo in terms of production on claims, and there he goes. Does get that upgrade, but now Evil Diablo has this little window of opportunity where if he can get enough money now, I want him to get out of these nuclear plants, put them into the most profitable things possible, which is life support and electronics factories, and then make a run on Blues before Blues can get enough money to defend himself.
Yeah, I was thinking that perhaps that was Evil Diablo's best bet. It doesn't really matter how much debt you're in if your opponent has been knocked out of the game. And Blues, certainly, he has been struggling for so long to make money that maybe there was a window there where Evil Diablo could have gotten aggressive. The window might still exist, but it's going to be closing pretty quickly.
But yeah, Evil Diablo needs to rotate. He's got 2 tiles that are just sitting there not sure what to do with them. Just hold down that X key and put down something that's profitable, man.
Sometimes it's just correct to make any decision and not worry too much about if it's the exact correct one.
Right, because right now, Evil Diablo buys 1 share into himself. He can buy 3 shares in the blues, and then he'll just needs to get, 1.5 more shares worth of money to secure the deal. And blues only can buy 1 share in himself.
Now, it has been important to keep up with these EMPs to make sure that blues isn't able to get that money put together. I am, however, quite concerned about this water situation. So blues, his initial found next to all of this ice, this is where it's starting to pay off for him. He's able to keep that water price nice and high. He's got a lot of cash wrapped up in that. Evil Diablo, though, he's consuming an awful lot of water per second. That's really cutting into his profits.
Yeah, 2.8 water per second, negative 133 per second right there. Extra claim comes out. Evil Diablo is going to bid it up, but once again, very risky when you're in C debt. Going for 32k, I'm not sure Evil Diablo can afford that in the long term. In the short term, if he can knock blues out right now, it doesn't matter. But the power plants are still online. He doesn't have enough water. He needs to get out of some of this life support stuff. So go into more water. Instead, going into carbon. It's not going to fix the water problem, and there goes that nuke that we called earlier.
Finally, it is coming down a little late compared to when you often would like to see nukes, often more effective earlier in the game, but the tile had diminished down to medium, and so that hit is going to knock it all the way to trace. And a nice hit for blues, who still riding that line, but looks like he's probably going to scrape together enough to hold on for the time being. It's exactly what he needs to pull off right now.
Yeah, he does. Evil Diablo just needed to rotate. These 2 power plants here aren't doing anything. If they're more electronics factories, then maybe he gets enough to secure the buy. As it is right now, I don't see it happening. And blues will just barely be able to keep on, and then beating an opponent in a 1v1 in D debt on Ceres, where the interest ticks come every 9 hours, should be something blues is able to do.
A mutiny is what blues is going to choose to throw at this solar condenser. He just turns it off afterward, doesn't even care. He just wants to take that away, and it was so much cheaper to spend the 3k mutiny than it was to try and commit all the way to a 30k EMP. Blues valuing having that cash on hand so he can defend himself right now.
Yeah, now Evil Diablo has a lot of buildings turned off. To be fair, so does blues, as the water price is getting pretty high. Some of those buildings actually are profitable for Evil Diablo, but Evil Diablo needs to sell out of blues, pay down that debt into sustainable levels to just have a chance at this game anymore.
Yeah, Evil Diablo continuing this effort into the should never work out against a player like blues, who has the cash to defend himself and will get the warning if Evil Diablo chooses to sell one of his own shares to try and push that cash a little bit higher and take out blues. So it really is important for Evil Diablo to take this cash back, stabilize himself, and just keep on as the expansive player with massive claim advantage. And maybe turn his farms back on.
Yeah, turning farms back on would be a good idea. Moving into unprofitable chems by themselves, not necessarily the best idea when electronics is plus 80 per tile without the adjacency bonus, plus 137 with that adjacency bonus.
Yeah, the chems are quite odd to me. That's just a strange decision, because fuel has been pretty expensive this entire time. Reactors themselves aren't even particularly profitable, so it's not like you're going to knock that fuel price down effectively anytime soon. I just want to point out that this solar player is making blues 15.2 water a second, and water's up at 150 right now. There's no stockpile.
Quite the cash flow. Well, getting those life support resources on Ceres is extremely important. Because life support does have a tendency of going a little bit crazy on Ceres, even with the fact that the colony has built about equal number of garages as it has habitats.
Yep, those prices still will get up on you pretty quickly unless they're making an awful lot of those resources. Finally, Blues has managed to crash the water price, but man, he's made so much cash off of that. He is actually ahead in the stock game at this point. 2 stock lead over Evil Diablo with a much better stock price. So even with all these extra claims, Evil Diablo needs a lot more money to be able to close out this game.
Yeah, a lot more money to close out this game, and his share price is going to continue to drop as he's in D+3 debt and climbing.
And this is why we were so concerned about those nuclear plants so long ago this game, because if you do not use power to stabilize your debt situation, it can be extremely difficult to manage to stabilize it at all. And once you've tumbled down into that D level of debt, those interest ticks are just going to keep coming, keep knocking that share price down, make it harder and harder for you to stay in the game. And on top of that, in a 1v1, being knocked out of the black market, which is a zero-sum game here, is just something you're usually not going to survive.
Right, Blues is ahead in the optimization front, has 5 optimizations to, or at least has a 5th one researching, to Evil Diablo's 3. Blues has that Pleasure Dome, which is making a decent amount of money, 168k per second. Blues picked up, what, 2 claims off of auction and a handful from bribe claims, so might be even on Evil Diablo in the claim front. They're not too far behind anyway.
Yeah, advantages are just disappearing for Evil Diablo this game, it would seem. And Blues, it's fairly close, but this stock price looks like it's going to make the difference in whether or not Blues can get over that finish line. 57% of the way there right now.
Yeah, Evil Diablo still needs to pay another 60k just to get even in stock, and then Blues will have a 100k or a little bit more advantage at that point in the stock game, and then not to mention the 100k advantage in the price to buy out the opponent. Blues also using the hacker array. Haven't been keeping up with that completely. Evil Diablo actually is hacking iron, and in a lot of iron. Blues doesn't have any iron, so perhaps they're hacking about as efficiently as possible, but Blues just has more money to work with. So which means
more money, more stock.
The hacker array is a Matthew effect building. It helps the rich get richer. And that's how you close out games often in 1v1s.
Nobody interested in this optimization center, it would seem, and I can't really blame them for it. I wouldn't be interested in that either right now as either player. 82% of the way there is Blues. He is probably just going to ride out this short. Straight on through to victory. Evil Diablo, not much to do when you've fallen quite this far behind, unfortunately. EMP, just to round things out. That felt unnecessary, but also not particularly harmful to Blues' efforts.
I mean, it's 30k just to make sure that you ensure the win. Blues has the 100%. He takes it. There was a window of opportunity where Evil Diablo could have taken it, and we harped on it a little bit just then. So, like I said, anything can happen in Offworld Kings, but Blues, the favorite to win between this matchup, does win in the end.
Yeah, Blues more careful in the mid game and just more play in the late games. What's going to carry him on through that time? I mean, it is often most players who are going to be in this tournament, they'll make it through the early game just fine. They'll make it through the mid game. They'll reach HQ level 5 most of the time, right? But it's always keeping up with everything that you can do and need to be taken care of in the late game and in the lead up to it. That's where you see the best come through, and that's what we saw out of Blues here with this match.
Yeah, everyone who's signed up in this tournament is at least a mid-tier or higher player, so we will have some competitive games, but if you don't play 1v1s very often, and especially if you don't end up playing 1v1s on Ceres or Io, which have equal probabilities showing up on Mars in this tournament, you could be in for a little bit of a swing that you're not used to. Just looking at the balance sheet here, Blues, you can just see making more money on the production and sales, 1.2 million to Evil Diablo's 900,000. And a lot of that was difference was in power, although most of that was just used to keeping the debt in check. For Blues, didn't quite make too much power money there.
No, we saw him tumble back into debt pretty quickly after he started making money, simply because immediately after he started making money, half of his nuclear plants were hit by another EMP. And then at that point, the price had fallen to about $100, and it just kept falling from there. So really, by the time that enough power had come online to potentially make some money, it was simply debt that had to be paid through. But still, paying off debt definitely made a big difference in that game, so you can't blame him for the power play itself.
No, I mean, those power plants did. Blues saying in chat that paying 64k for 2 claims may not be the best idea when you're trying to make power money, but what it meant was that those claims didn't hurt Blues at all in the long game, where Blues didn't have to worry about debt. So those versus Evil Diablo picking up a claim or 2 themselves, for a lot of money. That just pushed Evil Diablo further and further into D-debt.
It's true. It's true. And you also have to wonder how detrimental it was. I mean, yeah, you could call it a power play. You put down 4 nuclear plants, but when there are both circuit overloads and EMP is flying around everywhere, is that even really a power play, or is that just legitimately trying to stabilize on the map? I don't know.
Either way, Blues continues his match streak and is now up to 3, meaning Blues is the leader right now in Offworld Kings. To be fair, this is only the second time that we've done the Offworld Kings 1v1 tournament. But always
still being in the lead, that's nice, that's good.
Always